Howdy, partner. Gabriel Nekoshea here, King of Orion and author of Tilt and Orion's Belts. And hopefully Operation Ignition is out by the time this comes out. If not, it will be out in the next week or two. We'll see. But today is the next chapter of Tilt. I think chapter 6, The Ghost of You Lingers by Spoon. Matteo browsed through the Tilt shop as he neared the end of breakfast, never really settling on a particular song or genre. He polished off the rest of his sandwich and ate the last remaining tomato slices covered in lemon pepper. He scowled at the dishes. With a shrug, he resigned himself to rinsing them off and tossing them in the dishwasher. Sunlight peeked in through the kitchen window and caused the sudsy water to create tiny rainbows among the browns and blacks of the skillet's caked-on carbon. Matteo scraped the crud and rainbows away. He asked Esper to play We Looked Like Giants as he worked at dishwasher Tetris. The bowls from last night's dinner were rearranged to make room for the small breakfast plates on the top rack. He shifted pots and pans on the lower shelf to make room for the skillet. He tried to angle the kitchenware in the racks so that the water jets would hit their important surfaces full on, and took a special pleasure when the song ended just as he was certain everything was in place. He closed the washer and set it to its task. Esper, he thought, please play Mr. Blue Skies. Matteo dried off his hands and turned to go grab his backpack. He stopped short. A pale blue mist billowed through the hallway. It emanated from the graduation picture of his brother in uniform. The mist pooled on the carpet beneath the photograph and swirled about in a vortex. The mist formed a hole in the floor. A shadow figure rose from within the hole as if on a stage elevator. Matteo recognized its height. Michael? The ghost's face was blackened and blurred so that Matteo could not be certain. But the clothes it wore were full color. His brother's Letterman jacket, which he had never worn in life, framed Michael's favorite The Beaters t-shirt. The JROTC and water polo letters were in the right places, but were all off-kilter, in darker colors than he remembered. Where his medals and awards had once hung were instead bottle caps and skull-shaped pins. Spiders and cockroaches lined up on the jacket's shoulders as epaulets from hell. The letters from left to right spelled D-E-A-D. Two glowing red eyes hovered in the shadows above the clothing. Hello, Matt, said Michael's ghost. But I saw them bury you. You can't be here. Sure you did, coward. Closed casket. You could have checked. Could have seen what Mom and Dad saw, but you failed to find your spine. Well, Matty, I'm here to show your spine to you. The phantom took a struggling step towards Matteo. The tattered jeans folded and collapsed, but refilled with mist at each step. The Letterman jacket reached towards him, shadowy claws extending from its puffy sleeves. Matteo tried to back away, but slipped on some of the water he had spilled washing dishes. He landed painfully on his back. Matteo kicked at the phantom and rolled to his belly. He scrambled across the kitchen floor towards the dining room. He forced his feet under him. The jaunty rhythm of Mr. Blue Skies matched his heartbeat. Risking a glance behind him, Matteo tripped and fell onto the carpet. The mist was gone. He was alone once more. What the hell was that? He thought. He panted and clutched at where his knees had dinged the kitchen tile in his scramble. Matteo tried to calm down, but the music refused to help. Esper flew through the kitchen door towards him, and he nearly panicked a second time before recognizing the digital pixie. That was a level unknown apparition, said Esper. I must apologize, Master. I cannot control the enemy spawns, but that was a terrible one for a first encounter. But that was Michael, he said. That was my brother. No, Master. That was a stressor. They represent and feed on your day-to-day tasks and lurking emotions. That one, in particular, was what is known as an apparition, an appearance and role-based phantom. I am sorry it defeated you. Luckily, you managed to escape at least. Matteo felt a hole in his mind. It was as if he were facing a test question he knew he had studied for, but had forgotten the answer. He clenched and unclenched his fist with measured intensity. So it was just a creep? Could I have fought that thing? Had you visualized using the music against the monster, yes, you could have fought the apparition. Good to know. That won't happen again. I'll beat the next one. Matteo asked Esper to play samples of songs throughout his drive to school. He asked the fairy to filter the samples based on the songs he already had, but with enough variety that he could select from the 3 primary colors. There are actually 9 different color filters I could apply, Master, though you won't have access to those visualizations until you're level 3. Would you like me to narrow the field based on yellow, red, and blue emotions? Yes, please, said Matteo. As he turned the ignition and set the car to autopilot, Esper sat atop the steering wheel and kicked her legs to the beats of each song in turn. Matteo mused over how much of the songs fit within their respective categories. How did some upbeat and fast songs like those in the ska genre have a tinge of blue? He had enough hype to purchase a few songs he found genuinely enjoyable, but he held some in reserve to pick out oddballs that defied his expectations. He asked Esper to slot the oddballs in his active playlist so he could see how their visualizations differed. By the time he reached school, his playlist was in order. 6 primary colored orbs hovered just under his direct focus, like the bullets in a revolver. Game on, he thought to himself. Esper grinned up at him. His car wheeled through the parking lot, past several empty spaces towards his senior space. Other senior spaces featured murals or nameplates. Matteo's car eased into position on the blank asphalt of his space. Mel and Dare waited for him at their usual concrete table. "Mat Attack, how are ya?" said Dare. "Stand by." There we are. Thank you. Not bad, man, not bad. Listen, have you guys used Tilt much since yesterday? I've been seeing some weird stuff since... Definitely, said Dare. It's been a game changer. Last night my homework turned into a scorpion every time I tried to sit down to do it. Freaked me right the hell out. That's a poor excuse, started Mel. Relax. Once Artemis explained how the visualizer worked, I tore that scorpion to pieces. Finished my homework in record time, too. Artemis? Asked Matteo. My, fairy. To be honest, she's kind of an asshole. A little red arm poked out of Dare's nose. It struggled to pull the rest of a rusty figure out, but its hips got stuck. The way the fairy was proportioned, Matteo was surprised her chest had managed to get out before the rest of her. With a pop, she was free of Dare's nose and fluttering around. Her burnt clay skin glittered with sparks as she zipped towards Dare's face. He recoiled, and Mel burst out laughing. You guys see her? Chuckled Dare. Meet Artemis. Mel held out a hand, palm up, and Artemis fluttered onto it. The fairy sent a rude gesture in Dare's direction. Esper zipped out of nowhere and joined Artemis in Mel's palm. The two fairies swirled around in a little dance. There's mine. Say hello, Esper, said Matteo. I am afraid I can't do that, Master, said Esper. Unlike Tilt's music, I am not able to communicate beyond visualizations with other Tilt users. A bare-chested fairy in black and white checkered trousers ran down Mel's arm and joined in the dance. She introduced him as Alistair. The fairies took to the air in unison and swirled about, hopping from Dare to Mel to Matteo and back again as the teenagers started walking towards class. Matteo told his friends about the apparition, but he downplayed how closely it resembled his brother. He laughed at how scared the monster had made him, and Dare joined in laughing when he mentioned slipping on the kitchen floor. Excuse me. My mom thought I was getting jumped when the homework scorpion thing surprised me too, said Dare. I haven't run into anything weird like that, but then again, I haven't listened to my music since we were at SCU, said Mel. What if something like that happens in class? There was this cloud of pixels before my homework jumped at me. Did your clothes monster have anything like that, Matt? Said Dare. Mateo nodded. If you see colorful mist, try not to freak out. You know how you used the visualizer to pull me out of the funk yesterday? I think you can attack the monsters like that. Mel shrugged. No way to know how it'll go until it happens. Thanks for the warning, though. Hopefully, Alistair warns me before any AR nonsense strikes. Her fairy saluted alongside an earnest nod. They chatted through the rest of the walk, laughing at this, sympathizing with that, until the bell rang. Together, Mateo and his friends went to their seats. Mateo's school day went well enough until third period. His teacher eyed the classroom, gauging her class's attention. Her eyes fixed on Mateo. His face went pale. A popcorn butter-colored mist began to coalesce around her as she asked her question. At that point, Mateo's world slowed down. He had the distinct feeling of being in two places at once. In the real world, his teacher was about to ask him a question he was not sure he could answer. Running in parallel, in the visualization brought on by his augment, the mist around the teacher coalesced into a swarm of black and yellow striped question marks. From somewhere within the back of his mind, Mateo heard himself ask Esper to play "We Looked Like Giants." His physical body was registering the teacher's question and formulating a response, but in Mateo's mind, he was lancing question marks with spears of ice. Hornets ducked in close, but he met each with a blast of cold wind and a quick stab of focus. At last, the question mark answers were eradicated. His teacher seemed satisfied by his answers and moved on to other prey. "Congratulations, Master," said Esper. "I was not sure you were ready for that swarm of trickery, but you handled it well." He thought back to the moment, tried to remember what the question had been. Mateo was surprised to find he knew exactly what the answer was, despite skipping that particular chapter of the reading. He reached to scratch an itch at the side of his head, but realized its source and let his hand drop. How had he known the answer? Did defeating the projected monsters allow him to know, or was it something he had picked up from other experiences? "Yes," said Esper. She did cartwheels atop one of his pens as she spoke. "It was a bit of both. That is how the visualizer interprets reality. If you can defeat the stressor, you do. Simple as that. Speaking of, congratulations on making it to level 2. You gained a bonus of 35 hype on top of the 20 you gained from defeating the Triveries. After the songs you purchased this morning, this brings you to 105 hype, Master." Mateo was agog. He glanced around the classroom. A few rows over, Brittany was grinning at him, a small green fairy on her shoulder. She gave him a discreet thumbs up to go with the smile. Mateo's face warmed with his own smile. Closer to him, however, was Pins. She had managed to work the SH8s on into her look so that the makeup seemed to point at her new toy. She stared at him, her head cocked to one side. How had the Triveries looked to her? The thought brought new perspective to the scene in Brittany's sister's dorm. With a flash of inspiration, Mateo winked at her. They grinned at one another. After class, Mateo made his way towards his car. "How does a nobody like you learn to make those kinds of fireworks?" said a female voice from behind him. He turned around and found Pins walking along behind him. "Iceworks. Whatever." "You saw that?" "Pretty sure anyone with a spike in saw it too," said Pins. "For some reason, though, Miss Nehemiah didn't seem to notice. What gives?" Mateo grinned. "It's this app I installed. It's called Tilt. You should check it out. I think you might like it." Pins touched her glasses frame and nodded. "It's downloading. That doesn't really tell me much about it, though. Also, here." She held a folded piece of green paper out to Mateo. The 20's coarse fibers gripped his fingertips as he smiled wider. When was the last time he had held a physical $20 bill? "Are you sure you want to give this to me? You might still need the cash if Johnny's dad comes after you or whatever." "Waylon bought these straight. Johnny's just being uptight. They think because he dresses like he does, he can't afford nice things. Bunch of prejudiced pricks. She held her hand up, palm towards Mateo. Keep it, but don't say I never did anything nice, all right? Fine by me, said Mateo. Sorry you missed the tour, though. Did Mr. Fleurs give you any trouble? I spend too much time on that campus as it is. He asked me a few questions about the facilities, and I gave him more information than he expected. No problem whatsoever. No thanks to Brittany, I'm sure. She frowned. So this thing is saying something about music? Mateo saw Pin's fairy pop into existence. It seemed angelic, wrapped in gold, red, and white. You get to pick 3 songs for free. The rest you can buy with hype as you level up, or with cash if you're feeling frisky. She nodded. And the monster things in there? Creeps you can defeat to earn hype and level up. Basically, everyday stresses turn into enemies that you can use your playlist's visualizer to defeat. Sounds dumb, but free is free. Anyway, thank you again for the cash and for letting me tag along for the tour thing. It was nice to see Waylon during the week. Don't mention it, said Mateo, but Pins was already walking off. She glanced towards the fairy hovering ahead of her every few steps and seemed lost in her thoughts. He wanted to know what songs she would pick. Mateo went home and went through his usual motions, yet just before bed, he wondered about Pin's choices once more. And next time, it'll be Break On Through to the Other Side by the Doors. Thank you. Whew. Another one down. I hope you all have a good evening, day, whatever. Talk to you later. Or not, as ever the case may be.